Today Africa Podcast is a podcast series where we interview African entrepreneurs and professionals and share the stories behind their businesses. In each interview, we ask how they got started, how they grew, and how they run their business today. The stories are inspiring and also provide specific advice and insight into starting a business. By sharing these stories, we want to help others get started.
Welcome to Today Africa podcast, a series of conversation with African entrepreneurs, filmmakers, leaders who are shaping the future of the continent. Don't forget to like, share our content on social media at Today Africa, and head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel at Today Africa Studios. Joining me today is Peter Browne. He's the CEO of Farming by Faith, based in South Africa. Peter, you're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. I look forward to this conversation, America.
I believe that there is Peter outside being CEO. So tell us more about yourself.
I'm a researcher, so I do a lot of reading and watching videos. I love to actually see the world around me. I think the internet is a fantastic technology that has enabled us to come up with new ways of inventing, new ways of doing business, life. I'm excited about the future of technology in South Africa and in other African countries. I think that getting on an interview like this is a prime example of the kind of change that has taken place within our lifetimes to actually showcase projects globally. I've been part of a global accelerator called Bridges for Enterprise. So I'm really leveraging global technology. So they're based out of a few different countries where they actually operate and help emerging farmers. So I've been passionate over the last 8 years in looking at how we can help farmers. How do we actually help emerging farmers become prosperous? That's like a key message that I have, is that how do we actually lift people out of poverty? I've been very interested in that topic for a long time.
You said something that you are part of the people helping farmers. Were you born into the family of farmers, or you just got that passion along the way?
No, so I studied to be a mathematician, and I was an entrepreneur running my own businesses, and I'd sold them successfully. And I got to a place in my life where I could see that doesn't matter how much money I'm earning, I always have to pay tax, and the price of things keeps on going up and up each year that goes by. And I said to myself, there has to be a different way to solving this problem, because if I'm worried about money, what about everybody else? So the solution was to actually go and buy farms. I had a fish farm, and it had some fiberglass manufacturing on it. So it had some industry, and tried to find a way to help recovering drug addicts get responsible in their communities and active to actually drive business. But the project, I underestimated how long it would take to become profitable if you're going to start something from scratch. So I've had a lot of lessons to actually say, how do we help farmers? And if I'm going to help a lot of people out of poverty, rather focus on building a digital platform as opposed to actually farming. So I'm not a farmer, if that makes sense. Although I've got experience in running a farm, it helped to actually identify what is the key problems that we need to help people and farmers get skilled in.
You started a project to help drug addicts, to help recover drug addicts, but along the way you underestimated the project. So what lesson did you learn from that project, and how are you applying it to your present venture?
Yeah, so when I went to do that project, I put a lot of money behind buying fixed assets and vehicles, and the actual to try and make it operational. So I deployed a lot of capital to actually get it off the ground. But if you're going to something like poverty in a country. You have to think about how many people you need to actually help, as opposed to you just doing the project. So the focus shifted to say, how can we rather build a digital platform that actually helps farmers, and a key element is education. So I've got, on my current version of the platform, I'm using artificial intelligence to create video content and articles that can actually attract emerging farmers to the project. So the next stage is I'm going to be running a competition with another local farming project that's also in agriculture technology, to see what is the kind of interest we can get from the market in helping farmers.
From what you have said, you have told us what inspired you to start up Farming by Faith. So could you please tell us more about Farming by Faith?
Yeah, so I'm busy at the moment going through a selection process of partners that offer the right kind of training and educational projects to offer to farmers. So I wouldn't necessarily do the farming training myself, but I would rather partner with an organization and then rather focus on how do we actually create digital leads for the project. So that's really where I see Farming by Faith is having a very solid digital presence that can actually help drive a project for other people and partners to work with. So that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be very lean. So I learned from my lesson with farming is if I get caught up in using my funds for a lot of expensive assets and expensive staff costs and building costs and maintenance and security and all the different things that come with running a business, that I'm not going to be as effective in actually helping farmers. So it's at this stage, it's myself I have the concept, and I work with the developer who I outsource the work to actually build the platform.
Your business is called Farming by Faith. And
Yes.
people wondering why Farming by Faith, since you are out to help emerging farmers do well and make money. So why the
Yes.
name Farming by Faith?
That's a very interesting question. When I first started it was very much a case of a social entrepreneuring venture that can help society. And because we were helping recovering drug addicts, there was a very much a case of a religious aspect to it. And the Bible is a very interesting document. It has a lot to do with the economy of Israel and food. And if you look at someone like Joseph in the Bible, he was controlled Egypt. He was second in command to Pharaoh. And what did the people come to do? They came to get food when there was poverty in the land. So that was where the vision came from, was actually saying there's a lot of very good material in the Bible regarding agriculture and learning and being part of a faith community that actually makes a moral stand in society and can stand out from the rest, to say, how do we actually help society? And here's a project that has taken a bold stand as a faith-based organization to help people. And I've seen that I get a lot of interest from people outside South Africa because of the branding. So it helps to create the right kind of person and investor that I'm wanting to speak to.
According to the Bible and what the Bible told us about the state of Israel, it was an agricultural driven economy. So what lessons have you gotten from the Bible that is helping you run Farming by Faith?
I look at Joseph as that example to say this was a man that became so powerful that he actually could have, like, it's like the president phoning you up to actually say, come and speak to me. So the fact that he was working on those projects, he was given control by a pharaoh. So it's the same for me. I see it as the same thing as if I can solve man's issues around food, then whoever is pharaoh in a different country, whoever is the president even, would be interested in seeing that his country address poverty. So for me, a key lesson has been, how do I live inside a world system with banks, with governments? How do I actually become effective in that and prosperous? Because the man looks at wealth as a measure of success. So I think they've got a very good criteria to say who is successful and who can you learn from. So I believe that if we can actually stand up and showcase good projects that in the same way that Joseph was lifted up, I would also be lifted up. So it's for me a no-brainer to actually say, great, I see the value in using the Bible and the lessons learned. I mean, it's small things of like when you actually see how money works, how debt works, and you compare that to the Bible is far more like land should be returned to its owners over a period of time after it gets reset. So there's a way for people to come out of poverty if they lose their assets. So dealing with man's debt versus the Bible's debt is quite fundamentally different. That would be one key example of what I've taken from my projects. Is I actually lost farms back to the bank, and then I've been in a case of, now how do I get out of this financial difficulty? So in man's system there is no way back, but in the system of the Bible, you can be the person that's held in prison, and you can still come up to be second in command to the president.
The system of the world is run in such a way that the rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer.
Yes.
And you are coming into the midst of this system that kind of favors the rich. And your project is farming by faith. How do you
Yes.
plan to bridge this gap, this huge gap between the rich and the poor?
Yes. So to answer that question, there's a number of points I can talk on. The one is that I've identified a community currency that can enable microcredit given to farmers to actually say, how do we actually help get them to a place that they understanding money and how money works, and you could actually create a new economy without disrupting the economy of the government. So you won't get into trouble for running projects like that. I've got a partner in England who their focus is on blockchain technologies to create social impact, and one of their projects is in Kenya, where they ran a community-based currency. So that's one example of how one actually can help get ahead of the game, if I put it like that. Another area that I've looked at is I've even looked at how do we trade in the financial markets and generate funds through speculation and speculating in the financial markets to generate profits, and then once you have the profit, you can funnel that back to your project. So I'm a very experimental. I love innovating and seeing new ways of how we can deal with money differently. So that's just two examples of how we can help farmers.
Let's talk about your challenges. Every venture or every business comes with its own challenges. So, what have been the challenges that you have faced, and how have you been able to overcome them?
I think that when you start a project, you don't really have necessarily a clear idea of what exactly the project's going to look like. That was an area where I, after 2 years of running the farming project with the recovering drug addicts, I had input from a global accelerator called Bridges for Enterprise, where they actually said, where I could actually get pro bono consulting, where I didn't have to pay for the for the work. And they helped to actually say, if we're going to address poverty, we like projects that are innovative in emerging markets to address big challenges. So they helped me with my business plan, my strategy. They helped me with a financial model, a pitch deck. They're also helping me with the technology to build the platform. I've got a follow-up call with them coming up in a week or two. So that's been like how how I've solved the problem, whereas others might, because they're more monetary focused, they wouldn't have got the same support for projects as what I've received from organizations that have a global scope to in their social entrepreneurship.
All right. I know you want to make an impact, or you're into the business to change the lives of farmers and emerging farmers to help them become profitable. So, what is your business model, and how will farming by faith generate revenue?
So at this stage, I'm looking at different strategies to generate revenue. So I'm pre-revenue at the moment, and I'm trying to look at my website to say I can get if I can get a percentage of the educational pie, if I can call it like that, where we've got a lot of businesses that are already charging for their services to help educate farmers and train them. So so that would be the one aspect, is through a consulting model that actually incorporates other farming enterprises. Another one would be someone that actually builds container farms. So I'd say, okay, I'd filter through the kind of traffic that I'm getting, and then find someone that's got the capital to put it into container-based solutions for farming. And that one, because it's a bigger price tag, then it's easier to ask for a percentage of the project to do that. Also, then when we create the community currency, that there would be a percentage that of the actual currency that comes back to myself through the blockchain initiative. So those are some of the. I'm in a stage where I've created the right branding. Now it's a case of how do I monetize that branding. That's the stage that I'm in at the moment.
We have talked about your business, your model. Let's talk about the farmers. I believe you have criteria that qualifies someone to be part of your project. So, what are the criteria you are looking at that qualifies
Yes.
a farmer, an emerging farmer, to join your project?
I'm obviously wanting to get to a place where it can actually be anybody at any point of his farming journey can actually get involved. So maybe it's someone that has some funds already stored up and has access to land, and is wanting some strategic guidance around the projects, where I can say this and this is how we do. Like, as I said, we can source from the retail company that I mentioned. The criteria for the farmers. So in South Africa, we have a huge poverty issue. We have, let's call it, a well-established agricultural industry, and but that's controlled by a small percentage of the population, and those are typically Boer farmers, Afrikaans farmers, because that was just how they were raised. And the history that one works with your father and you passes on the business to you is quite strong within there. So how do we pair up an experienced farmer like that with the emerging farmers? We have a huge population that is below the poverty line in South Africa. So it's a case of if people can find, in South Africa, we're at a place where if you can provide a stable job, you'll get many applicants to the project. So you're not going to be run short of interested farmers to help them.
Like you said, the agricultural sector in South Africa is controlled by a few people. And that is leading me to my next question, which is you are trying to upset an already established mindset about agriculture in South Africa, which is helping farmers that are not doing well to do well and helping people that want to venture into farming to do well. Don't you think that the well-established farmers in South Africa would be upset that you are trying to destroy an already existing pattern whereby you are trying to bring in people to make money, not just make money, be profitable in their farming business? Don't you think so? That those guys will be upset?
No, look, I think that we operate under a free market in South Africa, where if you're coming with a better solution to solve a problem, the market is the one that dictates whether you're going to be successful or not. You've got to be able to, that's why, like for me, I'm innovating to say, if I'm going to build a digital platform that connects landowners and emerging farmers, you can, for example, go and find websites where you can just list the farm for sale, but there's no contact between yourself as the provider of access to that farm on a digital platform to actually helping the farmer. It's left up to you just buying and selling. There's no support mechanism that the platforms provide. Whereas with myself, I'm looking at how do we actually help support farmers and also work with existing projects. So there might be someone that, as I said, like the vertical farming guy, where he knows his market and he knows he can be successful. He just needs more people to grow his business. So I don't see a conflict because we operate in an open free market in South Africa.
Like you said, there's an open free market. But I still believe in every open free market, there are still a group of people that controls those markets. Don't you think so?
I think that at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to pioneer, an entrepreneur who says, I didn't come from a farming background, but how do I actually help address something? And it's a supply and demand issue where if you look at Zimbabwe is a good example, was that the previous government, because of their policies, they created a very elite, wealthy upper class that controlled the huge portions of the land, and the majority of the people didn't have access to that. So there was a huge demand for addressing the poverty question and helping farmers, emerging farmers, become successful. And then what happened in Zimbabwe when they confiscated land, it was then redistributed and it brought utter chaos to the country. So that's an extreme example of why it's important for a country like South Africa to address this, because we have the same kind of poverty that Zimbabwe has, we have in South Africa. You don't have to go very far to see it, to go into a township in South Africa and see people that are just standing idle. We have a huge proportion of the population not doing anything. They don't have jobs. So the demand is there to create a solution that actually can solve the problem.
What strategies are you going to use to attract and retain these farmers on your platform?
I'm busy with a conversation with another farming agri-tech company where he's got a mechanism to actually create community platforms that, for a small fee, they can get support from him and access to his network of farmers. So with that, we're going to run a competition to actually. We still need to get to the what kind of competition we're going to run, but we're going to run a competition that then attracts the emerging farmers to the platform, and then you've got a way to interact with them. So that would be one example. The other one would be that I told you about, the supplier that's doing in the retail space. So again, being able to see the kind of people that you are putting in contact with that business turning into farmers, because as soon as they're spending money, they've got a project that's going on that you can reach out to them on.
What key lessons have you learned in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Don't lose money. No, it's quite a serious one. It's a case of you need to be very strategic in the kind of allocation of capital to projects. So I was fortunate that I had money available that I could actually put it towards a project and actually get to the outcomes. But still, like, even though I hit financially hard times, I'm still keep going. The business idea is there. As I say, I believe, like with Joseph, that if I can control South Africa's food economy, I'm going to be a very powerful person in South Africa. Even if I don't make as much money as other people, I'm going to be very powerful in that. And that was like, how do I now, with the modern technology, leverage the digital divide to actually create a solid business plan that actually people want to know about. So that's been one of the key lessons: is don't give up. I mean, I was bankrupt. It's not a good place to be, but like, if you believe in your project and your idea, you're gonna go through times where you make money, and you go through times where you lose money. That's just how business is.
What lessons would you give to others, to younger people who wants to venture into agricultural business?
I think a good example is to get an apprenticeship where one can actually get involved in projects and actually show one's worth and learn the processes. I mean, and actually beyond just being an employee who's there for the paycheck, if you can rather be the one that's trying to learn the most, trying to grow the most, trying to speak to all the different departments in a business, in a farm, get the farming experience, understand how the crops are grown, how to actually sell the crops, how does it actually get to a place where it's bought by the end consumer. Learn as much as you can. Asking questions gets you a free advice. So that for me is a case of saying you've got to be passionate enough to ask over a period of time and learn those lessons. I think that we're at a place where the internet is a source of learning, if I can put it like that, where what inspired me was I saw how many videos on YouTube of farming. So what I did was I create the AI that goes to the website and actually creates content for farmers. So we can address the educational thing. So I really think that if I were to give advice to someone to say where should I start, I'd say YouTube is a very good place to start.
Today Africa Podcast is a podcast series where we interview African entrepreneurs and professionals and share the stories behind their businesses. In each interview, we ask how they got started, how they grew, and how they run their business today. The stories are inspiring and also provide specific advice and insight into starting a business. By sharing these stories, we want to help others get started.